It's 4:12 a.m. in the Caribbean Sea, 2.7 nautical miles off the coast of Venezuela. The water is calm. The air is thick with humidity. On the bridge of a Venezuelan patrol ship, sonar operator Luis Mora has been staring at his screen for 6 hours straight. Nothing but background noise, ocean static, the hum of distant cargo vessels. Then, at exactly 4:13 a.m., a faint signature appears on his display. It moves, slow, deliberate, and it's close. Too close, Mora leans forward. His hand hovers over the alert button. The signature is weak, almost ghostly, but the pattern is unmistakable. It's a submarine, and it's less than 3 nautical miles from Venezuelan territorial waters. He hits the alarm. Within seconds, the bridge erupts. Officers rush to their stations. The ship's commander, Captain Mendez, grabs the rail and stares at the sonar feed. His jaw tightens. He knows what this means. A foreign submarine in these waters is not a mistake. It's a message. The patrol ship changes course. Engines roar to life. They move toward the contact, their radar scanning the surface, their sonar pinging into the dark water below. But there's nothing visible, just open sea, black water stretching to the horizon. The sun hasn't risen yet. The sky is still dark, painted with the last remnants of night. And somewhere beneath them, hidden in the cold depths of the Caribbean, something massive is lurking. At 4:17 a.m., the submarine surfaces, not slowly, not cautiously. It breaches the water like a steel mountain rising from the abyss. Water cascades off its hull. The conning tower cuts through the surface, sleek and black, gleaming under the first light of dawn. The Venezuelan crew watches in stunned silence. They recognize the shape immediately. It's a Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine, one of the most advanced underwater vessels on the planet. And it's sitting there, fully surfaced, less than 3 nautical miles from their coastline. The submarine doesn't move. It doesn't signal. It just sits there, engines idling, its massive hull displacing thousands of tons of water. The message is clear. We were here all along. You didn't see us, but we saw you. The Venezuelan patrol ship slows to a crawl. Captain Mendez grabs his binoculars and stares at the sub. He can see the American flag painted on the conning tower. He can see crew members moving on the deck, but no one is pointing weapons. No one is threatening. They're just watching, waiting. Mendez knows he's in a dangerous position. Protocol dictates he should challenge the vessel, demand identification, assert sovereignty. But he also knows the reality of the situation. That submarine is worth $3 billion. It carries torpedoes, cruise missiles, and enough firepower to cripple his entire fleet. And it's operated by the United States Navy, the most powerful maritime force in history. Any aggressive move could trigger an international incident. Or worse, so he does the only thing he can do. He orders his ship to hold position. Keep visual contact. Monitor the situation. And wait, the standoff begins. 15 minutes of absolute silence. 2 vessels separated by less than a mile of open water, locked in a contest of will and patience. The Venezuelan crew watches the submarine. The submarine crew watches them back. Neither side moves. Neither side escalates. It's a game of nerves played out on the surface of the Caribbean Sea, where one wrong decision could change everything. But this wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. The submarine didn't stumble into Venezuelan waters by mistake. It was sent there, part of a broader operation that most people will never hear about. An operation designed to send a message without firing a single shot. To demonstrate power without provoking war, and to remind every nation in the region that the United States Navy operates wherever it chooses, whenever it chooses, seen or unseen. The operation is called Sentinel South, launched 6 months earlier in response to increasing drug trafficking and illegal weapons shipments moving through the Caribbean. Intelligence reports indicated that cartels were using Venezuelan coastal waters as a smuggling corridor. Vessels would depart from hidden ports along the coast, loaded with narcotics and arms, then disappear into the maze of islands and shipping lanes that crisscross the region. Traditional surface patrols couldn't stop them. The smugglers were too fast, too experienced, and too well informed. They knew when patrol ships were coming. They could see them from miles away, but they couldn't see a submarine. A Virginia-class sub can operate completely submerged for months at a time. It can track vessels from below, monitor communications, gather intelligence, and remain completely invisible. Its sonar can detect a ship from 50 miles away. Its sensors can pick up engine signatures, radio transmissions, even the heat from a vessel's exhaust. And when it surfaces, it does so on its own terms, in its own time, with complete tactical advantage. The submarine deployed to the Caribbean 3 weeks before the encounter. It moved silently through deep water channels, staying below the thermocline layer where sonar detection is nearly impossible. Its mission was simple: monitor maritime traffic, identify suspected smuggling vessels, gather intelligence on departure points and routes, and when necessary, surface just long enough to let everyone know it was there. A psychological operation wrapped in steel and nuclear power. The crew aboard the submarine had been tracking the Venezuelan patrol ship for 2 days. They knew its schedule. They knew its patrol routes. They knew when it would be closest to the suspected smuggling corridor. And they chose that exact moment to surface. Not as a threat, but as a demonstration. A reminder that no matter how carefully you patrol your waters, we're already there. We've been there. And you never saw us coming. Captain Mendez understood this immediately. He had served in the Venezuelan Navy for 22 years. He knew the capabilities of American submarines. He knew that if they wanted to remain hidden, they would. The fact that they surfaced meant they wanted to be seen. It was a calculated move, a show of force disguised as routine navigation. And there was nothing he could do about it except watch. The sun began to rise. Orange light spread across the water, illuminating the scene in sharp detail. The submarine's hull glistened. Droplets of seawater evaporated in the growing heat. The Venezuelan patrol ship held its position, engines idling, crew at their stations. Radio silence. No communication between the vessels. No hails, no challenges. Just 2 ships separated by ideology and allegiance, sharing the same patch of ocean for 15 of the longest minutes anyone aboard either vessel had ever experienced. Inside the submarine, the crew operated with calm efficiency. The captain stood in the control room, monitoring displays that showed the Venezuelan ship's position, speed, and bearing. Sonar operators tracked every movement. Communications officers listened to encrypted transmissions bouncing between Venezuelan Naval Command and the patrol ship. They could hear the tension in the voices, the uncertainty, the fear of making the wrong move. The submarine's presence was legal, technically. Under international maritime law, a vessel has the right to innocent passage through territorial waters, provided it doesn't engage in hostile activity. Surfacing a submarine can be interpreted as a non-hostile act, a demonstration of peaceful intent. But everyone involved knew the truth. This wasn't about legal navigation. This was about power, about sending a message that couldn't be misunderstood. We can go anywhere. We can surface anywhere. And you can't stop us. At 4:32 a.m., exactly 15 minutes after surfacing, the submarine began to submerge, slowly, deliberately. The crew on the Venezuelan patrol ship watched as the massive vessel sank back into the water. First the deck disappeared, then the conning tower. Within minutes there was nothing left but ripples on the surface. And then even those were gone. The ocean returned to its calm, empty state as if nothing had ever been there. But something had been there. And everyone knew it. Captain Mendez ordered his ship to continue its patrol, but his mind was racing. He would have to file a report, notify command, explain what happened. But what could he say? A foreign submarine surfaced in our waters, stayed for 15 minutes, and then left. We didn't engage. We didn't challenge. We watched. Because that's all we could do. The submarine descended to cruising depth and resumed its mission. Its sonar continued scanning. Its crew continued monitoring. The operation continued, and somewhere in a command center thousands of miles away, analysts reviewed the data from the encounter. Timestamps, coordinates, radio intercepts, video footage captured by the submarine's periscope. Every detail was logged, analyzed, and filed. Another successful presence operation. Another message delivered. This is how modern naval warfare works. It's not about battles or explosions. It's about presence. About demonstrating capability without deploying force. About making your adversary understand that you're always there, always watching, even when they can't see you. The submarine's 15-minute appearance off the coast of Venezuela accomplished more than 100 patrol ships could have. It reminded every smuggler, every trafficker, every hostile actor in the region that the United States Navy owns the ocean. Not through violence, but through technology, training, and the willingness to operate in places others can't reach. The Venezuelan government never publicly acknowledged the incident. No press releases, no official statements, but the intelligence community took note. Messages were passed through back channels, Diplomatic conversations happened behind closed doors, and smuggling activity in that particular corridor dropped by 40% over the following month. Vessels that once operated freely began taking longer, more complicated routes. Some stopped operating altogether. The presence of that one submarine surfaced for just 15 minutes changed the entire strategic landscape. This is the reality of naval dominance. It's not always visible. It doesn't always make headlines, but it's always there, lurking beneath the surface, shaping the decisions of nations and the actions of those who operate in contested waters. The Caribbean Sea, once considered a relatively safe corridor for illicit activity, had become a hunting ground. And the hunters were invisible until they chose not to be. The Virginia-class submarine that surfaced off Venezuela that morning is still operating, still patrolling, still gathering intelligence. Its crew rotates every few months, but the mission remains the same: monitor, track, demonstrate presence when necessary, and remind everyone that the ocean, despite all its vastness, is never truly empty. Somewhere beneath the waves, something is always watching, always listening, always ready. Captain Mendez still serves in the Venezuelan Navy. He never talks about that morning. But those who know him say he became more cautious after the encounter, more aware of what might be lurking just beyond the range of his sonar, more respectful of the invisible threats that modern naval forces can deploy. And perhaps that was the point all along: not to provoke, not to threaten, but to educate, to remind, to demonstrate power without ever firing a shot. The submarine has since conducted 7 more presence operations in the Caribbean, none as dramatic as that first surfacing off Venezuela, but each one carefully calculated, each one designed to send a message, and each one successful in ways that will never be fully disclosed to the public. Because the most effective operations are the ones no one hears about, the ones that change behavior without creating conflict, the ones that assert dominance through demonstration rather than destruction. This is the new reality of maritime security: silent, invisible, and absolutely unforgiving. The ocean may look empty, but it never is. Beneath the surface, beneath the waves, the game continues. Ships move, submarines track, intelligence flows, and somewhere in all that darkness and depth, power is being projected in ways that most people will never understand or appreciate. Until, for 15 brief minutes, it rises from the abyss and shows itself. Just long enough to remind everyone who really controls these waters. If you want to see what happens when submarines don't surface peacefully, check out the next video.